Many of us are familiar with the idea of a plot twist, whether we're reading a book or watching a movie, and all of a sudden something happens, something changes the entire plot that completely recontextualizes the entire movie or story that we just heard. So like maybe one for you was when you watched Frozen for the first time and you found out that Hans was actually one of the bad guys, and you were just like completely blown away by that. Or one of the most famous ones is in Star Wars, where Darth Vader announces that he is Luke Skywalker's father. The problem with plot twists is oftentimes so many of us, because of our pop culture and just knowing things, we know about the twist before we even sit down and see the movie. In fact, a lot of people who probably have never seen Star Wars know who not only Darth Vader is, but he also know that he's the father of Luke Skywalker, even though they've never seen the movie. And so a lot of us, when we sit down and we watch that movie for the first time, or maybe we're reading a book for the first time, and we have and we know what's going to happen when we open the pages or whatever, it doesn't pop. It doesn't mean as much as it would have if we hadn't known that plot twist. Interestingly enough, I had an opportunity where I got to see a plot twist of a movie played out in real time with somebody who did not know and wasn't aware of the twist. A couple years ago, my wife and I were sitting at home, and we decided to, I was flipping through the TV, and it landed on Planet of the Apes, the old 1960s Charlton Heston movie. And I had grown up with it. I had watched it many times before, and I love Planet of the Apes. My wife had never seen the original Planet of the Apes. So I was like, hey, well, let's watch it. So we sit down, and if you're not aware of the story, basically, to summarize it really quickly, these astronauts crash land their spaceship on this planet, and they find out that the planet is inhabited by intelligent apes. And in fact, the apes are hyper intelligent and have formed a society, while human beings are basically primitive and have been reduced to just kind of mindless animals and creatures. And so these astronauts have to find a way to survive in the Planet of the Apes. Then you get to the ending. And I remember sitting and watching it because I had seen it so many times. And they go to this beach and they tell our main character that to go over there, and all of his questions about what's going on and the Planet of the Apes and everything will be discovered and found out. And he goes over to the beach, and what does he find but the Statue of Liberty? And it turns out he was on Earth the entire time. And I'm like, oh, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what a good ending to this movie, right? What a good story that we just enjoyed for the last couple of hours. And I look over at my wife, and she's like, what? Like, hold on, it was Earth the whole time? Like, she's like her mind is completely blown open, right? She's like, and I was like, yeah, like, it was Earth. And she's like, well, like, that's so, like, what? Like she can't make heads or tails of this ending. And I'm like, and it surprised me because not only had the movie been out since the 60s, but we had watched the sequels, like the modern day sequels or prequels, Dawn, Rise, and War for Planet of the Apes. So she had seen these Planet of the Apes movies, but she didn't realize that those were tied in and connected to this first movie, and she was completely blown away by the information that she saw on the screen. I think when it comes to Easter, when it comes to the empty tomb, a lot of us, we know the ending. And so we know that the women arrive, they go to the tomb, and Jesus isn't there. We know that the disciples show up, and Jesus isn't in the tomb. We know about the stories of Jesus meeting and talking with the disciples. And so many of us, because we know it, it's not significant anymore. But what if we could have our Planet of the Apes moment where we turn the page, and when we see that the tomb is empty, when we hear the words, "Don't be afraid, for the Jesus that you've come looking for, he is no longer here. He is risen." Those words jump out at us, And we're completely blown away because, oh my goodness, he just died a second ago. He was dead. He was on the cross. He was bleeding out. And he cried out in a loud cry, "It is finished." And the curtain was torn from top to bottom, and there was an earthquake, and there was all this crazy stuff that happened when Jesus passed away. And then you flip the page, and there was nothing to be worried about because Jesus is alive. You see, with the resurrection of Jesus, that's the entire hinge point of why we can have confidence in who Jesus is. Because if Jesus hadn't rose from the dead, then he isn't who he said that he was. He said, "I am the Son of Man, I am the Son of God, and I am here to die and build the temple in 3 days. I'm here to die and suffer, but then to raise from the dead in 3 days." And everyone's like, "What are you talking about, Jesus?" And then he goes and he does it. And he changed the world forever. 3 words out of the Bible changed everything. And that was, "He is risen." It's because of those words that we can have hope in our darkest times. We can know that God is for us and not against us, that God's love conquered death, and it reconciled us back into a relationship with him only through the power of Jesus Christ. So from all of us to you, I just want to say, Happy Easter. Enjoy the freedom, enjoy the peace, enjoy the love, joy, and the prosperity of what it means to know that Jesus Christ is not in a tomb. He's not dead, laying somewhere, but he's risen. And let's celebrate that together today.